Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. Want to thank everybody who's joining us today, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X, or on the CGI Digital Network app, whether that's on your phone, tablet, or television. We thank you for joining us, and for everyone else watching or listening, thank you for joining us as well. I am joined with co-host Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Jeff, doing well. Good to see you. Just want to let the audience know we're recording this one a day before.
Mhm.
So if you're watching this one, we're usually live. We aren't live today. So we aren't going to take anything in the chat box today, but please continue to watch. It's a new show.
Yeah, and leave your comments. We'll definitely read your comments later if you make some comments through this
Yeah,
program.
definitely.
But thanks for joining us today. Uh, so hey, good to see you again, Mike. We just got to last week. We recorded a new Armor of God web chat that we have made available that we did on the topic of hell. So I'll just let everybody know that's out there for people if you want to get we go through a lot of scriptures of that. I can't believe how many we went through, but it was quite the discussion.
Yeah, definitely. And if you haven't seen Kirk Cameron talking about the topic, of course, he's more famous than we are. That was kind of the thing that initiated our conversation on it. So please take a look at that.
All right. Everything else going pretty good for you there?
Yeah, things are going well. We got the Santa Ana winds coming in the winter, and
Mhm.
we're experiencing a little of that today. So I did not put the recycling bins out front today because the last time we did it a couple of weeks ago with the winds, they were all over the street. Everybody else's stuff was everywhere. So we just got to go through that a few times during the winter. So.
Okay, that's kind of wild, but I guess do you live technically in what is a desert or something
Yeah,
out
I'm
there?
kind of in the foothills between
Okay.
LA and the desert. So I'm about 50 miles east of LA,
Hmm.
about, an hour and a half from Palm Desert, Palm Springs area.
Yeah, I know when I visited out there, it was very interesting when I flew in and saw this the terrain. It's just very different from a lot of other places around the world. We have the mountains and desert behind that, and then like the valley there, it looks like, or the plain where most of the people are living. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm an East Coast person, so it was something to get used to for me. But speaking of the desert, I think we have a guest today
Yeah.
who's near the desert.
That's right. Yes. This is why I live in Arizona is for the winters, definitely not the summers. For sure.
So how's the weather in Arizona during the winter?
Oh, it's wonderful. I think the high today will be 65 is
Mhm,
what the projected high is, which is relatively chilly for the winter here.
mhm.
So I will take it, take advantage of every opportunity to go on hikes and spend as much time outside as possible. Because once you hit April, you're not spending any time outside. You're inside all the time.
Yeah, we want to thank you again for joining us here on Prove All Things. You've been with us before. It's been a little while, so if you could maybe give some people out there who are watching, maybe for the first time, what is your background and what are we going to be discussing today?
Sure. So I don't propose to claim that I'm an expert in anything. I'm a person just like you guys trying to navigate life.
Yeah, that's the same
So
with us. We're not the expert or anything either.
exactly. So I'm a human being just like you, trying to navigate life. I guess a couple unique things about me is I served as a therapeutic foster parent for 5.5 years. I also served in the addiction recovery field for a couple years as well. So I have a degree in psychology and um, as well as an MBA. I'm married to a wonderful wife who, if I make it to heaven, it'll be largely because of her. She's wonderful, and I have 4 amazing young men, sons, and I live vicariously through them, watching them wrestle and run. And so I'm really blessed. And yeah, I just been in Arizona my whole life and happy to be with you guys. Um, I did check off a box on my bucket list, which was to write a short story. It's a fictional novel. It's titled The Weight of Grace. And it really has put me on a trajectory, which we'll talk more about. Obviously, I don't want to give too much away right now, but a trajectory to to really see people in a different light than I used to. So I'm excited to talk more about that for sure.
All right. So yeah, for anybody who's interested in that book, we'll give a website, I believe, theweightofgrace.com. And I also have your email address available up there as well. Again, I may not be too interested now because you haven't talked about it much, but once you talk about it, I think the interest will definitely rise for our viewers today. But I don't know why I have that radio thing up there. All right.
I think that's the guy from last week.
Weightofgrace.com.
Yeah, we were talking earlier with Tom about getting things mixed up sometimes.
No, see, yep, that's all right. Totally okay.
All right. All right. Well, hey, so good to have you with us again. So, what would you like to discuss with us today?
I think what I would like to discuss is a little bit more about what it is I want to accomplish. Number two, talk to you guys about your own experiences in regards to practicing grace, grace for yourself and grace for people that you come in contact with, because we live in a world today where it's full of shame in our own mistakes that we make. It's full of judgment in mistakes that other people do, and preconceived notions that in most cases are not accurate. And just talk a little bit more about what we can do as brothers and sisters in this world to help spread meaningful connection and compassion. My goal is to share those stories and help encourage myself to do better, and talk maybe a little bit about my past experiences in being a therapeutic foster parent and addiction recovery, and how does that relate to compassion, and how has that affected my mission and our mission as a whole, as brothers and sisters in Christ, is what I would love to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds great, Tom. I think that's an important topic, compassion, empathy, things of that nature, because that gets into the day-to-day Christianity, the meat and potatoes of Christianity, rather than all the speculation on, how many angels are on the top of a pinhead or whatever it may be. So, I think that's a great topic.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And I love that you mentioned how you said, you mentioned two words. You said compassion and empathy. There is a distinct difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. When we think of sympathy, when someone says, my son, Frank, he's not doing well, a sympathetic response would be, well, at least Samantha's doing well. It always starts with at least. Empathy is putting yourself in an uncomfortable place, being willing to be vulnerable when someone is hurting. Instead of trying to fix the problem, you just put yourself in that uncomfortable place. And often it's a place where you don't have to explain, you don't have to silver line their situation. In fact, I remember my family, we were going through a very hard time. We lost someone who died, and he was murdered. And the response from various people was way different. We had some that were questioning him and his situation that he was in, and it was a very it was a hard way to receive that hard situation. That was a sympathetic of, well, at least. There was a brother, a friend of ours, who, when he found out, he came to our house, he knocked on the door, and when my wife opened the door, he just started to cry. He didn't have any words. He just said, I'm so sorry. And then he hugged my wife for about 2 minutes straight. That's empathy. Once he was done, he just said, love you guys, and then left. Mm-hmm. He didn't come in and try to fix any problems or try to explain anything. He showed empathy. That's wonderful. And that's where I want to get. And then you mentioned the last thing, compassion. Mm-hmm. It's action, compassion, action.
Okay.
It's action tied to empathy. So they go beyond of just putting themselves in an uncomfortable place, but they do something. They go and help you with your move, or they, there's lots of different ways people can show compassion, but that's where I would love to get is if you're in a place where you recognize when someone's suffering that you don't want to feel uncomfortable and you turn to sympathy, that's okay. I understand that. My hope is that I can help influence each person just to move a little bit closer to the next step, from sympathy to empathy and vulnerability, and then from empathy to compassion. That's where we really want to get, because that's where Christ was.
Mhm.
He showed compassion on everyone he ever met. It wasn't sympathy, it was compassion. So thank you for bringing up those two different words, because I think it's important for us to recognize there's a difference between those.
Yeah, there is, and you've got me thinking about when I first started being an elder in the church, dealing with death and people who had someone die and maybe having to do a funeral. Initially, I felt funny about it, not funny, but just like, well, how do I react to this? How should I deal with these folks? And over time, it became easier because you realize that the people weren't looking for you to solve the problem or take care of, this issue where someone had died, but they just wanted someone to hear them or listen to them or just be there physically. And once I got that, it became easier to deal with those difficult situations, that just having some presence, whether it's a phone call and just saying, hey, I'm wanting to call you and let you know that I heard about this. And, I'm really concerned that, if there's anything you need, can I do anything? Let me know if there is, and not making it a long call, not going on and on, just letting them kind of direct the conversation. It became a lot easier, I think, once you go through some of those similar experiences.
That sounds like something like this happened to me. I guess the same with you as an elder. Is like, what do you say to someone after someone passes? And really, I still don't know what to say. But I think it's more about being able to listen to them. Is listen to them and just talk to them and be there for them in that way. So yeah, I very much understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, compassion, empathy it's a complex thought process, and they're for children. I think a great short clip, the movie Inside Out. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. Great story. There is a part where Sadness, the blue character, has a conversation with, I think his name's Bing Bong. he's the main character's imaginary friend, and she communicates empathy so well in that situation and helps heal him, because the Joy, she was always like, hey, let's distract him and let's move on. And it didn't help solve the problem. Sadness came in and showed empathy and sat beside him and validated his feelings, recognized that they're sincere and real, and was just there, communicated how he was feeling. And afterwards he was wiping his tears and he's like, okay, I'm going to be okay. So for parents out there, if you're trying to look for a good example of empathy, that quick video of Sadness talking with Bing Bong is awesome.
Yeah, I saw that movie with my daughter when she was younger, and I thought it was very well done. And they were really hitting on all those feelings and emotions. It was like, wow, they know.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Very good.
I was thinking, I just had a situation recently. I won't get into too much details, but it's where I, as an elder, I did something, and not knowing, not intentionally, but because of sometimes we just do things. I did something to offend someone in the church, and that happens. You may do something wrong, and like I don't think I did, but actually after talking to the person and listening to them, I kind of realized maybe I did, right? So I had to empathize. I had to really listen to what they were saying to understand their feelings about the situation rather than just from my point of view. And that was hard to do, but it's definitely something I've learned over the years and probably not nowhere near good at, but trying to get better at those type of things.
Yeah, and that's hard to do because we
Yeah.
live within our own, views, our own experiences in life,
Yeah.
and so it takes a lot of humility
Yeah.
to be an active listener and
Mhm.
really seeking to understand someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
Because it takes effort and
Mhm.
vulnerability. So you're in very good company. I'm the same. I
Yeah.
infect people without knowing sometimes too. So
Yes. And
Yeah,
I
I
hate
think
it when that happens
everybody
because
does.
you
Yeah.
don't want to do that. You don't want to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when it happens to you and when you are aware of it, it becomes easier to see it later or in the future. You
Right.
start to pick up on cues and things that you weren't aware of before when you get that feedback and you accept that feedback. Again,
Mhm.
I've heard the phrase feedback is a gift. Look at it as a gift rather than something negative. And
Mhm.
if you always think of it as something wrapped up as a present or something,
Yeah.
even when you don't like it, it's like, hey, you don't know what's in the box. It's like, what's in there? I want to see that. And then when you open that box, sometimes, hey, maybe there's a rock in it, but there's something you learn about getting that rock too, if you
Mhm.
think of it as a gift
Mm.
rather than as a negative sometimes.
And just
Yeah.
know that when someone like shares their feelings with you, that is a sign of respect, right? They respect you enough that they will share your feelings
Trust.
or will tell you where they disappointed you. And so it's, yeah, like I said, it is a gift to be able to have feedback no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Even what we do when we do the show, people give us feedback all the time and we appreciate it because there's the only way we can get better is through that feedback.
Yeah, and it always isn't positive, but by taking it in, it's like, hey, I can grow, I can learn, I can become better at what we're doing here.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I liked what you said regarding looking into the box and finding something of value. The way that I've communicated with my family and our experiences is I liken each one of us to having a file box. And inside this file are our life experiences.
Okay.
And with those life experiences, we gain perceptions, assumptions, understandings. There's a lot of things that come from our experiences. That's how we gain knowledge. That's how we, see the world. And we fill our file with all these different experiences, positive and negative. And so when we get to a situation, sometimes we may assume something because we have a lot of files of this situation. We've had bad experiences with a certain type of people or a certain age or whatever it is. And that's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. And so when I talk with my family and I try to understand them, I say, hey, I understand that you've had these files. And in the life of a therapeutic foster parent, the children that we were licensed for had a lot of very negative files in their life. They were traumatized, they were abused, they were put in a situation that was just not safe. And our goal as a therapeutic foster parent was to try to start to put in some new files. And the goal is you can't expect somebody to change just because you put in one file that is a different experience. Really easy for us to go, wait, no, you have this experience, so I expect you to respond this way. It's like, no, I have 1,000 files of this negative experience. You can't expect me to get better because I have one file that's positive. The reason I bring that up is because we want to reconcile relationships. We want to have trust built. We want to have these positive, connections with people, but we need to have patience.
Yeah.
We got to have patience with ourselves, and we have to have patience with other people, and recognizing that file is going to have a lot of positives, refill in that space. So that way, when they come and they pull out a reaction, those chances of a positive response will go up because they'll have more instances. So if you have someone in your life that they haven't changed like you've thought they should really quick, keep in mind they may have a lot of files, and we need to have patience with that. And I love that.
That point you just made about patience, I've actually had that experience in counseling some couples where, when I first started counseling people, I didn't know as much as I know now. So through experience, I've learned that, hey, it takes time to get people from one point to another. And, I've had issues sometimes where one or the other within a couple feels like, we got to move faster. and I've learned that, hey, you and your husband are in different places right now. And we got to take our time with this. We need to talk initially, start to make some connections, and then we'll get to things later. But that word patience, I think, is so important in counseling anyone on anything. One other quick experience based on, I read your book and, the project you're doing with your book. I'll let you mention that in a minute. But experience I've had with my mom, who's almost 90 years old now, and she's very arthritic, and she's got problems with her knees, so she has a walker and everything. And she's had experience early in her life with 3 brothers where, she was the only girl in the family. So they were kind of always, so she always says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So she says, I'm sorry, like a lot of times. She says, thank you, too many times. And I know it's related to her early experiences, but it frustrated me many times where I'm like, just stop saying that. And so I'm trying to do what you're saying through her living with us now. Since my dad died a number of years ago, she's been living with us. And I've gotten to a better place. But initially, there was a lot of frustration and, come on, what? That type of thing, where I've had to give myself some patience. Where, okay, yeah, you got some stuff going on that you got issues with this. So get off of that, Mike. And so, yeah, the patience thing, I think, is so important, Tom. Yeah.
I would say I respect you, Tom, for being the foster parent, the therapeutic foster parent.
Yeah, man.
Because I was a foster parent for a couple of years with, and we wanted to get, like, we didn't want troubled kids, but that's kind of what you're going to get when you foster. Because again, I have no degree in therapy or anything like that, but they were troubled. They had abuse prior in their lives. And speaking of patience, man, I don't know if I had enough patience to be able to deal with all the trauma and all the things that we had to deal with the 2 boys. It was quite a lot. And I learned a lot by it. Maybe again, I just want to say, I respect you a lot for doing that, because I just, from my experience, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done was doing that.
It's definitely not a job that you do for the immediate reward.
No, absolutely.
At therapeutic level, what was unique and different about it was they were standard foster parents. And when the child got to a point where they were acting out severely and the situation just wasn't healthy for healing on both parts, they would send us to therapeutic foster family, which would be us. And our job was to hit that wall where typically they send them away and break down that wall and say, hey, we're not leaving you. I don't care if you run. I don't care if you're violent or cursing at us. You are worth a family that loves you and is consistent and will not leave you because you act out. Because that's what they've had. That's what their consistency was, is they were used to people pushing them away when they made mistakes. Because that's what was modeled to them. Their parents did the same thing to them. And so when they're put in a situation where they act out and they're like, well, I'm expecting them to send me away, and they don't. Oh my gosh. But they hate you. They hate you for the year and a half they're with you. But then you get that letter 5-10 years later to say, Mom, Dad, thank you for being the only consistent thing in my life. So they have a file that's unique to what they've experienced in the past. But yeah, it's not something you do for praise from the child, from anyone. So I commend you as well, Jeff. It's not easy, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I can just, trying to relate it to other experiences. I can remember getting dumped by a girl I wanted to marry. And my experiences in dating after that were, I had this the story running in my head that this girl wasn't going to be interested in me either. And it was kind of subconscious, where I remember leaving a message to a girl on the phone because she hadn't called me back. And I was like, hey, if you wanted to go out, or if this, and so the girl called me back and just made me aware of the message I left and how negative it was. And that was an eye opener for me, because it helped me realize, talking about feedback, that, whoa, I'm reliving this story and I'm not even realizing it,
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about the kids doing that. Yeah.
And that's understandable, Mike. It's a coping mechanism. So in my book, one of the things we talk about is negative experiences. So that can apply to a lot of things in life. It can apply to temptation. It can apply to anger. It can apply to hunger. It can apply to anxiety, panic attacks. It can apply to really anything that our body responds to a stressful situation. Dr. Stephen C. Hayes, the author of A Liberated Mind, he really inspired me in this topic. That's what I apply a lot of those principles in this book, but I won't give it away. But the principle is, our bodies are a gift from God, and our bodies want to have homeostasis. They want to have 98.6 degrees of temperature. They want to be satiated. Wants to have energy and peace in its life. And from the dawn of time, our body has responded certain ways to certain stimulus. So we get someone cuts us off, cortisol flows through our veins, and we feel anger. We feel the emotion of anger. Well, how do I identify myself when that happens? It's so easy to say, I am angry. I am anxious. I am tempted. And what we do is we tie our identity to the emotion that we're experiencing at that moment. And so it makes it almost impossible to make a choice, because we're associating, that's who I am. What I've learned through Dr. Stephen C. Hayes is the ability to take what they call as an objective, curious perspective, where we see that emotion from the outside and say, I'm experiencing hunger, I'm experiencing temptation, or I am experiencing anger. And with that viewpoint, it gives us the ability to have compassion for ourselves. And Dr. Stephen C. Hayes encourages us to give it a name. Old Grouchy, or whatever name you want to create it, but you look at it from a perspective of compassion and go, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to help me. But I do know that the best decision is to turn to God in this, or to go for a walk, or make a more healthy choice than I have in the past. And all of a sudden, it's not I'm white knuckling it and I'm trying to fight it. I'm letting go. Because I know this anxiety is eventually going to go away. The temptation will dissipate, and I'll be okay. And I love that. That's the principle in this story, is talking about self-compassion and going, I'm not evil. I have a natural man that I'm trying to learn to have dominion over. And when I turn to God, I can have compassion for that side of me and be able to become more like Christ, as opposed to more like the natural man. And that's the principle number one in the book, is about learning how to separate ourselves from those emotions and making a proper choice.
Yeah, that's so important, because I've talked to some people who continue to go back into their past and the negative experiences or the negative things they've done in their past after they've accepted Christ, and they're walking down this road. Those experiences, those thoughts, those feelings that they had in the past that were negative, or where they felt they were doing bad things, they continue to go through that and don't leave it back in the past, like you're saying, making that separation there. And again, I'm trying to tell these folks that everyone has something that they've experienced or done that is bad or negative, and just continue beyond that. The scriptures give you plenty of ammunition to help you fight against that, but you got to leave that past in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that occurred to me, and this is something that I'm working on, I guess a lot of people are working on, dealing with like different things in my life, or like there's certain things that cause stress. Uh, and the thing is, what I've learned is that things that cause stress, I'm not going to be able to avoid them, right? Things that cause anxiety, I'm not going to be able to avoid these things. So I have to learn how do I now, through Christ, be able to face these things or have a different reaction to these things? Because I think sometimes my reaction in the past has been bad. So again, like same, I guess, thing with temptation, right? How do we're not going to avoid temptation, but now how do we change our reaction to temptation or those type of things? And that's something I'm learning and still learning how to deal with, but it definitely helps if you try to learn a different way to approach things that are going to happen rather than the way you've always done.
Yeah. And is it interesting? Is for so long when I had temptation, I react in anger. Anger towards it.
Yeah.
Well, anger is not of God. There's righteous indignation, right? But if I'm just focused on the anger, then I'm white knuckling, and Satan loves that. He's like, yeah, get angry at me. Yeah. But instead, if I go, okay, I'll get through this. The Lord will help me get through this. And let's act. Instead of being acted upon and having anger, let's choose to act. Let's create. Let's go do something good with our lives. And then all of a sudden, that temptation becomes light. Now, let me be clear. That does not mean the temptation gets easier. That means, so in my story, I do a little different twist on the scripture that says my burden will be light. And I encourage anyone to read that. It's a different way to look at that scripture, because there was times in my life, and it's still, I go through waves where the temptation has not left me. And I get upset. I'm like, God, I've given my life to you. Why haven't you taken away this temptation? And then he taught me. He said, Tom, if I took away that temptation, would you remember me? Would you turn to me the same way that you have in the past? And then I think about it, I'm like, maybe not. It gives me the opportunity to be humble. And with that humility, he will make me stronger. And then it becomes sacred. That trial is no longer something that I fight. It's going, wow, I remember what my life was. I remember where this led. And now when I make the right choice, now I know where my life is leading me. And it's enlightening and feeling with so much joy. And that's what I wanted to do. And if it's okay, I would love to tell you guys a little bit about the social experiment that I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So I wanted to learn about bearing each other's burdens. What I mean by that is the Savior teaches us to be evenly yoked with him. And if we are his hands, then our job is to help bear each other's burdens, to make them light. And I wondered, I was like, how do I do that? I don't know what people's experiences are. Like I mentioned, they have their files. I have my files. And my trials, temptations, sins, challenges are different than other people. How am I supposed to understand someone that I know only God and Christ, they understand? I've learned that I don't have to understand. I can still share with them. So what I did, I went to a local park. It's called Tempe Town Lake. And I set up a chair, and I have a chair on one side and I have an open chair on the other side. And I sat for quite a long time. There's a sign that I have in the front that says, "What are you carrying?" An invitation to sit and reflect. My goal is to not have people tell me what their burdens are. It's just opportunity to sit and think about it. So I sat and I sat and I sat. And eventually I had a few people come and sit down. One of them was the experience was sacred. It became sacred to me. This gentleman came and sat down. You can tell that he has had a tough life. He sat down. Well, he came up, he had this bike, and he's like, "Hey, what's this?" And I said, "It's just an invitation to sit and think." And so he sits down and he takes a deep breath. And on my table, there's a small journal, and he starts writing in it. And then I hold up a sign that says, "Without saying what it is, are you carrying something that many people aren't aware of?" And you can tell he thinks about it. And then I hold up another sign that says, "What would it mean to you if you knew somebody else was carrying a similar burden? How might you treat them differently?" And it got him to think about it for a little bit. And he turned to the camera and said a few things about life and how hard it is. And then I held up another sign that says, what would it mean to you if someone was aware of your burden and chose to stay? And you can tell he was starting to get a little squirmy. And then I held up a sign that said, in front of me is a box of items that represent many of the burdens that each of us carry. I invite you to pick up the one that matches your burden. So he picks up a rock. Looks like this. There's holes in it. And then I hold up another sign that says, will you allow me to stand beside you and hold your burden for a moment while you hold mine? I pick up my burden and we exchange. The plan was for us to stand in front of the camera and just hold each other's burdens for a moment. Well, when I went up beside him to stand in front of the camera, he pulled me in and hugged me for a good 2 minutes straight and just cried. And then when we separated, he said, thank you so much. It feels so good to know that other people have burdens that are different, but we can still help carry each other's even though we don't understand. I was able to record it, and I will be posting it on social media here soon. My goal is to spread compassion, to help bear each other's burdens and make suffering into sacred. That's what I want in my life. And I can't wait. I'm so excited to post this and help each of us recognize that. So that's my big announcement coming. I'm so excited to post that video here soon. So
will it be available on your website?
It will be.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
great.
It'll be on my website. I'll post it on Facebook and YouTube. And
so let me ask you, I read the book and I definitely can relate to what you just said in that experience with what's in the book. But where did you come up with the idea on, the items in the box and to go out there and put some chairs up? And that's a unique idea. Well, how did you come up with that?
Well, I got the idea from my mom a little bit. My mom has always been very creative, and she started her own project of painting rocks. She would find a rock that kind of looked like an elephant or a dog, and so she would paint them. And she would paint rocks that looked like hearts, and she would share them with people. And so that originally came from my mom, of ideas of symbolism within these various things. And I thought, what she shares are all these wonderful things. And I thought, there's lots of us that are carrying things like that aren't pleasant. They hurt. And so over time, I collected these items when I'd go to Goodwill or various places where I'd find these items. I'm like, that looks like that could represent things. So here's another item that I have. It's a young lady who it's been broken in many pieces and has really glued back together as another symbol of, a possible burden that people carry. And so I have this box of lots of various things that they can choose from. But yeah, really the inspiration was originally from my mom.
Interesting. Yeah, because there's a lot of symbolism in the Bible also. So, that definitely resonates with people, I think, symbolic things and gestures and that sort of thing. There was something else you were doing with the book where you wanted people to, like you talked about this experience, you wanted people to send in experiences where they were giving somebody grace or something along those lines. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm so excited about this. So I want all of us to be able to spread compassion and empathy and meaningful connections with other people. So I have on my website, anytime I have an interaction with someone and share my book and my story with them, I always end it with an invitation. I ask them, I say, please find one person to show compassion to today or this week. And then go to my website and share that story with me. Share what kind of impact it had on them and you. And so there is a place where you can put the information on what happened, what was the effect, and then once that happens, then there's a list, or there's going to be a bunch of stories that will show up on the website. So it'll be running scroll. And then what I'm super excited coming is I'm creating an app, and the app will also give people the opportunity from their phone when they're going there about their day and they see something that was compassion being shown, whether it's towards themselves or towards other people, they can log that. And that will show up on my website. I'll have a running tally of instances of compassion. And my goal is to watch that thing just start to spin and get bigger and bigger and bigger and spread across the world of compassion. So stay tuned. There will be an app. First it'll be Apple, but love for people to download that and just look for opportunities to show compassion. And when they see it, click that and it'll pop up and you can see that tally and those stories start to grow. So that's my end goal.
Very cool. I had a couple experiences relating to that I sent you one, but I don't know if you got it, but I'll send it again because I got the right address now. But most recently I had an experience where I was waiting for my brother to pick up my mother because we meet halfway and he'll take my mother for the day. Sometimes she lives with me. And a homeless man came along. And he seemed, the kind of person that you want to be careful around just in observing him. So I, just kind of kept him to the side. He seemed to have an interaction with someone who was a little bit further away from him, a very negative interaction. So I just kept to myself, didn't say anything. But then when my brother dropped off my mother, we were getting ready to go. There's a coffee shop right there. Starbucks, and I said, hey man, you need a coffee, because he looked like he needed a coffee, if you get my drift. So he launched into a diatribe against me, letting me know he didn't need the coffee, and providing a lot of insults and other things towards me that in my younger day, hey, them are fighting words,
Yeah.
So I said, oh yeah, like the old me was coming out for a moment, but I realized the situation, and the new me, the Christ in me said, hey man, chill out, and it was just kind of like, I just smiled and said, okay, buddy, I got it, and I let it go. Because, the old me might have reacted in a different way many years ago. But, the new me understands, the situation. And but driving home from that had me thinking about not only that, but other things like my relationship with my mom and getting upset at her about that, or just other things like that where I needed to give grace. And it was an interesting experience, like a snowball effect, that doing it once here then caused all this stuff to go on up here about all these other situations. And it was very fulfilling in the sense of, wow, you give a little grace, and then that just snowballed in my mind into other areas where I can be doing that also. So I just wanted to relate that to you, how I learned about that snowball effect, that, hey, you just do this once or a couple times, and all of a sudden you start, the neurons are firing that, hey, you're ready for all situations now to keep doing that. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I could see why you would choose, why that response would be an easy response, because it's when you're being threatened, once again, your body's response is, this is a threat. I need to respond to protect myself. Right. But in this situation, Mike, you may not be aware, this guy may be focusing on survival right now. And his life right now, he's like, I don't want coffee right now. What I need is some sort of peace in my life, because my life has fallen apart. I don't want coffee. I either want food or I want something to escape. And if he's gone through all of these tragic situations, I remember when I worked in addiction recovery, I had some really close relationships with a number of the men going through recovery, and they shared with me their stories. And they were like, hey, when I was a kid, I went through this experience. And unfortunately, I turned to drugs to try to self-medicate, to try to deal with the situation. He goes, but Tom, I had two options at that time that I understood. It was do that drug or take my own life. And I think in that situation, I chose the right thing and chose to take the drug to get out of that situation and escape, or else I was going to do something even worse. And he tells me the situation. I go, if I was in your same situation, I totally understand why you would make that choice. And maybe I would have too. I don't know, but wow. And then all of a sudden it had more compassion instead of judgment. And so when I see these gentlemen, I saw a gentleman, I was very similar. I was going into Little Caesars to get a pizza. This man came up asking for money. And the response people are, they either ignore him and they're like, no, 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 no. Well, I decided to stop and ask him. And I said, hey, what's your name? And he was taken back. And he's like, what? I said, what's your name? And he told me his name. It's John. John, it's nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit more about you. What's your story? And he wasn't expecting that. He was just expecting me to either give him money or no. He's like, well, people don't normally ask that. I said, well, I'd like to get to know you. I want to be able to help support you the best way I can. So tell me your story. And he's like, well, I've been sober for 3.5 months and I'm really trying to stay sober and it's really hard. And I validated his feelings. I'm like, I can imagine. It's very hard. Overcoming addiction is one of the hardest things you could ever overcome. And I appreciate you being vulnerable with me, because many people would be like, well, then forget you, because you're just going to go and abuse. I said, how about this? I'll go in there and buy you a pizza. But before I do, can I pray with you? And he's like, okay. So we pray together. And I, told him, I said, hey, your best days are in front of you. You turn to God. He will help you. I know this isn't going to solve your problem right now, but I imagine you're hungry, because hence the reason you're asking for money. But I encourage you to find a good, wholesome place to get help. And I mentioned a place down the road that I was very familiar with that helped people in that situation. Great place for helping people in recovery. And I said, they'll help you for free. So please, they're just down the road. He thanked me. I don't know if I'll ever see him again, but that is, just giving opportunity to humanize people.
Right.
Instead of seeing them as an obstacle, be like, hey, you're a human being. that needs some sort of meaningful connection instead of, get away from me.
Yeah.
So yeah, good for you, Mike.
Well, thanks for that story too, man. That's a pretty good one. And I've had some other experiences like that in the past where, you kind of shock the homeless person by just having some interest in them. It's like, hey, this doesn't happen, and you can get into some interesting conversations sometimes, not always.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I know that some people out there have mental illness, and I understand that. So again, we're not telling everybody to go out and do that, but you know yourself, and I know me, you know you, and you know what you can handle and what you can deal with. So, but again, we can do this in different circumstances. It doesn't have to be the homeless person. It can just be your next door neighbor who you've never said hello to.
Yeah. And asking just the right question instead of the everyday, how's it going? If it's someone you have some sort of relationship, saying, how are you feeling today? You're going to get a different response of how's it going versus how are you feeling today? Or what's your passion project you're working on? Something that, it shows interest instead of just the surface level. Just get creative, and what I plan to do also on my website is creating some ideas. So if you're like, well, Tom, what are some ideas I can, use compassion? Well, I don't know where to start.
Right.
So I'll have some options of, hey, you see someone at the store, tell them they have a great smile. Leave it at that. And you would be amazed at how much that changes someone's day when they just hear somebody says you have a great smile or pretty eyes, or it's just can make a big difference.
For sure. We're starting to get low on time here, Tom. How do you want to wrap this up? Jeff, if we could get those websites out there on the screen too. And then Tom, just kind of give us a conclusion here to what we've been talking about.
Yes. So I want to get my story in the hands of as many people as possible to help them recognize that they have burdens. Everyone has them. If we can see each other with compassion, give ourselves grace as well. There is a weight in grace. It's not something that's just taken away. So recognize that you're not alone, that trials will continue and you can turn them into sacredness. So purchase the book, share it with other people, and then find that person to show compassion to, and go to my website. It says there under the share your story. That's where you can go and share that story with me. You can also contact me on that website. There's a contact us page to share your story, and I can post it as well. You can post it anonymous, so you don't have to put your name, but just have patience with other people and give yourself grace. So that's really what I want people to do.
Great. Thanks, Tom. This is a deeper conversation than our typical program, but we need to do that from time to time and get into the vulnerable side of things here. So I appreciate you coming on and passing along some of this wisdom, man.
Well, I'm honored.
Yeah.
I am honored.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, you've given me things to think about and maybe some things to approach, how we deal with people, not treating people as if they're an obstacle to get by or whatever, but treat them as a human. That means a lot, I think. I definitely think that's a great thing for most people to do now, or everybody to do. Again, hey, thank you, Tom, for joining us. We hopefully will see you again on another program.
We'd like to bring you back maybe in 6 months to see what's been building up on the website there.
I would love it. It'd be so cool. Wouldn't that be so cool to see the tally? It's like we have 1 million instances of compassion shown from this last 6 months. Like that will be so fun. Yeah. I look forward to
it. Definitely.
All right. Appreciate it, Tom. And we'll see everybody out there who's watching again next week in another edition of Prove All Things. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.